With Kansas in the rear view, it's time to turn our attention to Superspeedway racing as NASCAR heads to Talladega. This week we'll recap all that was last week's race, as well as look ahead to the YellaWood 500 as we got some Superspeedway racing in round 2 of the NASCAR playoffs. Let's get started.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Ross Chastain.
Watermelon Man, baby.
What a dumb race. So dumb.
I told you, look, this is exactly what I had envisioned was going to happen. And I guarantee you, Jeff Gluck's, was the race good poll is probably going to be 83 to 85% yes, despite this not resulting in the guys who dominated the race winning. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I was staring at a 50 on Saturday probably, and I was like, I can't after practice.
But that's the thing. Yeah, there was nothing for handicappers that do this every single week, myself included. Although, when we look at the betting card, I was high on Chastain coming into the week, but after practice and qualifying, hell no. If you came to me and told me after practice that you were betting Chastain, I would have told you, why are you donating money to the sportsbook? Because he looked like shit.
So as you can see, let's give it a little zoom. Brian freaking crushed it. Obviously, having the 30-1 pre-practice, it got as long as, like I said, I was looking at a 50. So that tells you everything you need to know about practice and qualifying and where the number was at. That being said, hell of a week. Hamlin over Larson at plus money. Hammered it again. Kyle Larson was going to be good. That was so frustrating. Did it to himself. Of course, the week I'm all invested.
Checkers or wreckers, man. That's the thing with Kyle Larson.
Bubba over KFB. Oh, and then Martin Truex.
Well, okay. So that was something that was the most apparent thing to me as we were coming to the final laps there. The fact that at one point you had Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr. running first, second, and third in some order. And these were all three guys that most people in the community were fading because none of them have shown signs recently of performing well. And for them to be running up front at any stage of this race for a significant amount of time just goes to show you the wonkiness that occurred. And again, it goes back to the argument we had with Bristol and all that, the excitement versus good racing argument. Is that this was exciting, but it wasn't necessarily indicative of what the race should have transpired to be when you had Christopher Bell, Ty Gibbs, William Byron, even Denny Hamlin at one point was starting to make his way through the field, and Ryan Blaney. Those were probably the best cars all day, and none of them got even close to the front to win the race at the end.
Yeah, losing. I'll scroll over here in a second, but I had Blaney against Martin Truex, and not getting that was so annoying. So Chastain top 10, Gibbs top 10, Jones over Haley was the loser, but everything else was cashing. So Brian just dismantled the draft board or the betting board this week. I had some good stuff. I found some good stuff late. The Larson, Hamlin, Reddick, or Bell to win at minus 115 is a bet I would make again, especially given what
100%.
Reddick actually looked pretty good. I think he was much better than most people anticipated on Sunday. But minus 115 to have basically the three favorites and Tyler Reddick was pretty nice. I know it didn't cash, but good bet, bad result. Bad bet, good result. The Jones over Hocevar, Cindric, and Dillon, I think would have been fine if Jones didn't.
Look, of the bets that I didn't cash this week, on the show and personally, I think that was the most frustrating, just seeing how fast his car was, but he just couldn't hang on to it. He was like an iRacer who stepped up in iRating class and was in a car, but was really fast, but he would overdrive it. And that's basically what Eric Jones did, essentially ruining his day twice.
Yep. And then LaJoy Group over Priest, Stenhouse, and John Hunter at 550 was
Was it the car?
Who's
Think about it. He Justin Haley wound up finishing like outside the top 30 because he wrecked or something.
Yeah. Blaney outright would bet that again. Blaney over Chase, happy. Cindric over Suarez was going to cash.
Oh, that was 100% cashing.
Austin Cindric. Why do I back these stupid jabronis who can't keep their car on the track? Austin Cindric, Eric Jones, Corey LaJoy, Chase Briscoe. Just like I'm like a fly to the little light, and every time. Jones over Haley, got that at plus money. It was flipped by the time it was race day. I think it was minus 130, minus 140. Busher was on RFK kind of in general lived up to what we saw in practice, and that was underwhelming.
Yeah, I think I think Keselowski actually was much better than what practice may had said. Well, I mean, practice did say he had good long run speed, and he had made his way up there. But I think Kez was also a victim of just the timing of the cautions in stage 3 and how the pit cycling got all jacked up with guys not pitting, guys staying out, guys short pitting. And yeah, so again, it was just a wonky race and something we should just anticipate going forward here in the playoffs at any of the other 1.5. So keep this in mind when we go to Vegas.
Yeah. And then obviously Bubba over KFB. I thought that was going to be dead in the water, but it was not. And then Hamlin. So it was a decent race. I like a lot of the bets I made. Obviously, they all didn't cash, but Chris Bell was one of the best cars. Blaney was one of the best cars.
I still think
Gibbs.
I was just going to say, yeah, my favorite bet of the week still, like best value, good, best like prediction bet was Gibbs. He had an amazing car. He was able to rip the top early in runs, but I feel like when he didn't get the lead on Bell early, he kind of fell back just because like his car wasn't as good in like the intermediate run than it was on the short or long run stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like Gibbs is going to be awesome next season, and he's learning a lot this year. But I feel like we're going to have to be betting him at much shorter numbers than typically would make sense. But as you can see, Brian is absolutely dismantling me this season. He's up 72 units. So follow Brian, fade me, and cash.
I mean, it helps when you hit a 30-1 outright.
It certainly does not hurt. It certainly does not hurt. So,
and that's a terrible bet, by the way, because he was trash in practice. I would not bet that again.
You said, I think you even said on Saturday that if you could cash it out, you would, or trade it out or whatever.
Yeah, like it was horrible, and Wormy was giving me shit during his pre-race poll because I was mentioning all my plus CLV bets, and then I came back and I said, well, I did bet Ross Chastain top 10 and to win. So those were terrible bets that wound up paying out.
That's good results. Head over to DraftKings, obviously starting with Kyle Larson. It's not going to end well. But I feel like we got to a lot of the good names. LaJoy was strong. Chris Bell was strong. Hamlin was, I think if it ran another 50 laps, maybe he's a little more compelling, but like he only led one lap. He had 10 fastest laps. Like he was just whatever.
Yeah.
Let me see here.
I mean, he also had the pit issues where he had like a loose tire and
obviously Eric Jones didn't help. The Casman didn't help. But our third one where we didn't go Kyle Larson, did I enter the same lineup twice? That's weird.
Maybe you did it 3 times.
As you can see, there was one that cashed. History. Yeah, here, this one. Oh, yeah. So this one was Larson. Even with Larson is cashed. Bell, Chase Elliott, which
I mean, he was the play of the century.
Yeah. But he even didn't score more than Bell, which is kind of crazy given he started 38th and finished top 10. But that shows you kind of leading laps and stuff. Bell obviously led 122 laps. That helps a lot. Gragson, LaJoy, and Daniel Hemrick. Hemrick was really good. That was a good call on your part.
I mean, there was one point though where it seemed like he had wrecked out.
Oh yeah.
So he might have actually wound up with a better finish than he actually had he not had that issue.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if my best lineups. Probably this is a 286. Let's see what this one was. Yeah, this is the ones where I avoided Kyle Larson turned out to be pretty good. It turns out.
Yeah.
Chase Elliott was 95.5%.
Oh my God.
Imagine being the 0.5% in cash that doesn't play Chase Elliott.
Did we not talk about that on the show? Like, you didn't want to be the 2% that didn't have Elliott.
Yeah,
I mean,
LaJoy was probably not a great cash play, but honestly, given his salary and his potential and kind of where my head was at with him, it's hard to get off him.
yeah,
Bowman
and
had
then
a good day.
I just want to say though too, like Christopher Bell, I mean, I'll probably do this again next year with him when we come back to Kansas. When you look at his finishing results, you know, it's 3rd through 7th as it's shown here, but every time we come here, he has an absolute rocket ship. And I mean, eventually that's going to turn into a win. And had the weird pit cycling and cautions not occurred, he's probably running away with this at the end.
Yeah, I wanted to throw up the Green White Checkered, which is our weekly newsletter that comes out every race day. Free to subscribe to. Brian and I spend a lot of time on Saturday night conjuring this up. So we put our DraftKings thoughts. Brian has his targets. I have my targets, and then we do our bets. We add bets here. Blaney over Chase Elliott, and then Cindric over Suarez. Links to the episode, our final betting cards, some other stuff. So give that a check every race day. Subscribe if you are enjoying the content. Like I said, it's completely free, so might as well do it and get it in your email inbox every morning on race day. Brian, anything else Kansas related before we shift our focus and head to Talladega?
Well, I think there's a lot of drivers that are in some pretty precarious situations now who entered the playoffs not thinking like that. One in particular being Tyler Reddick, who looked okay early, like you said. I think he was a little bit better than what we saw in practice. And then all of a sudden, just late, he just could not make up any ground. He wound up finishing outside the top 20. You know, we saw this team do this in the round of 8 last year. Maybe it's just occurring one round earlier. One of the championship favorites is just floundering at the wrong time. And we're going into Talladega, which he won in the spring. But I mean, this is not a track where you can just say, oh, he was good here earlier, that it's going to translate to this week either. So I think this is going to come down to the Roval for Reddick. And, you know, that's a dangerous proposition when you're going to have somebody like SVG in the field and probably Dinger coming in who dominates that track.
Well, and like Cindric could be decent there. Suarez could be decent there. Some of these other guys that you're kind of competing with, like a Chase Elliott, could be decent there. This week's going to be important, and it's going to be important that not only do they like perform pretty well this week, but to stay on the track, get those points. Playoff points are going to be at a premium. So this week, and then everybody going to the Roval needing a win. Denny's even kind of flirting with it a little bit. Like, it seems like he should be higher. Like Byron being in first is kind of crazy to me, but
just maybe that Jimmy Johnson driving style is returning.
Yeah. I mean, he was really good. And he could be somebody that dominates the Roval too, and all of a sudden puts some good driver out. I was pretty comfortable with a Reddick, Larson, Bell, 3 of the final 4, but I don't know
now
if I
it's
feel
getting
so
a
great
little
about it.
sketchy.
I don't know if I feel so great about it anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so let's turn our focus. Let's talk some Talladega. Super Speedway racing is fun and exciting and a horrible place to bet. So Don't be shocked if Brian and my cards are very light this week. We went heavy last week. We sprayed the board. We got aggressive. It worked out for the most part for Brian. It worked out great for Brian. It worked out okay for me. Let's talk the odds. So obviously shop it if you are firing on somebody, because each book kind of has their own thing. I've been using FanDuel just because they've been really good. I have Caesars up. Logano 12, Blaney 12, Keselowski 12, Kyle Busch 13, Chase Elliott 16, Denny Hamlin 17, William Byron 17. We'll stop there. Anyone, obviously, craziness happens, shenanigans happens. Anyone, even if you're not rushing to bet them right now, interesting at their number, or is it just a complete nope?
So honestly, amongst this group, I feel like the guy that I would be most intrigued to bet would be Denny at 17. I mean, this is a driver who, I mean, just earlier this year, he was opening up as a 10-1 at super speedways. And despite him looking scared at Atlanta the last time we went there and, just trying to play for points, he's already on record of saying that's not going to be the case this week. And he's going to be aggressive here at Talladega. So, I mean, not that they're in a must-win situation. Like, clearly they're going to need points here to stay in the fight. But if I could get Denny at close to 20 on a super speedway, I really don't hate that number. I have a really hard time now playing any of these guys at 12 or 13.
Yeah.
I would probably rather wait live and see if somebody cycled to the back off of a bad pit stop or something with like 50 to go and just grab them at like 25. Because who knows? But yeah, I think Denny's like the first and only guy amongst this group that I'd be interested in even playing right now.
Yeah, and iFantasy Race was talking about Denny, and especially in the at Talladega, where he crashed in the spring, but he's had some pretty decent runs. He's obviously had some fuel issues late and whatnot, but he calls him Denny as Mr. October at Talladega. In Fall Dega races, going back to 2016, he's finished top 10 in every race and has the series best fourth place average finish. So Denny, to your point, has been good, and getting him anywhere near 17, 18, 20, that would be a pretty good bet. Now, unfortunately, he's 16 at Caesars, and our offshore is squeezing him even more, so shouts to them. But yeah, I think Denny makes sense. I really, and this is gonna sound bananas coming out of my mouth, but I think Kyle Busch wins this weekend.
Okay. I don't hate that, and I could definitely see that happening, but I'm actually glad you mentioned that. There's an interesting stat that I kind of discovered when I was doing a quick amount of research on this race, is that since NASCAR introduced the playoffs in 2004, there have only been 6 non-playoff drivers to win this fall Talladega race, and only 4 in the current generation of the playoff format, where we went down to where we did the 16, 12, 8, and down to the championship 4. And
does
there's
that
only 1 in
include
the last 10. And that was Bubba during the rain shortened race. So, I mean,
does that include like the active playoff drivers? Because
yes, only the guys currently in the playoffs at that time.
So
not
Chase Briscoe's
eliminated
winning,
guys.
then.
What's that?
Chase Briscoe's winning then.
I could see that, but for me, so if I'm looking at it from that perspective, the only guys that are non-playoff drivers that I think that I'm looking at are guys that don't have clear affiliations with other teams or drivers that the team or maybe the manufacturer would tell them to give a push. I think Busch falls into that category. I think guys like Front Row Motorsports, Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland, who have been incredible at qualifying and
I think you just bet those 2 guys to qualify on the pole, because
you're not going to get odds on that. Believe me, they're going to be like 4-1, and I'm not touching that. I mean, it's probably going to happen anyways, but I'm not going to bet a pole bet at 4-1. But I think that's the way I'm looking at this race. So it's going to be majority playoff guys and non-playoff drivers who don't have clear affiliations with current playoff drivers, which is why personally, like I've already laid a little bit of coin on some long shots and Corey LaJoie and Justin Haley. Like who are they helping? A guy like Corey LaJoie, he doesn't even have a ride locked up. You know, so
yeah. I mean, Ross is interesting, but do you think he helps Suarez more than helping himself?
Well, because so that's the dynamic that I'm talking about right there. Like if it's coming down to it and they're running tandem, wouldn't Trackhouse make it a point to tell Ross, like, look, although you want to win this race, we need Daniel to advance for the team. I mean, I know this isn't F1, but at some point that's going to have to play a role in this current playoff format, especially with Suarez below the cut line and us going to the Roval. I mean, look, Daniel's good at road courses, but I do not consider him a top 5 contender next week when you have 2 ringers entering the fold as well in AJ and SVG.
Yeah.
You know?
What about the Penske garage? Obviously, Blaney is compelling and Logano, given where they're priced.
Oh, I would bet Cindric over both of them.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Cindric.
Just because of the price.
Because of the price, because of the garage, and all 3 are in the playoffs. So if anything, they're incentivized to have Austin win because that gets more of them through in theory.
Yeah, because
Blaney's in a good spot right now.
Look
at us like trying to figure this out, trying to do some.
Let me also add though on that note, one common theme we've seen at the Superspeedways this year is Penske running up front a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I could see a world where Joey Logano, he's going to qualify really well. I mean, it's been him and McDowell or him and the FRM guys every single race at Superspeedways qualifying up front. And so I think you're going to see Logano probably close to winning stage 1, maybe winning stage 2 here. And then if all 3 of the Penske guys are matched up late and Logano has secured all of those stage points, obviously he's going to go for the win. But again, like you just mentioned, it might be more beneficial for them to push Cindric to a victory, because then it would almost, outside of a catastrophe at the Roval, probably put all 3 of them through into the round of 8 at that point. I mean, there's a lot of tinfoil hat going on this week.
Are you buying Cindric at 22, 23?
So if I could get him at 25, which is what I got him, I think it was on our one of the offshores. I think it was at BetUS. He's 25. I played that. Now, mind you, this is nowhere near my normal outright amount.
Yeah, no, we're definitely approaching this very different than most weeks.
Oh yeah, like we've mentioned this multiple times, but at these types of races, I think you take whatever your normal unit allocation is and you divide that by 4, 6, however you want to do it per super speedway races. Yeah, BetMGM doesn't have outrights right now. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
And so, like, if you normally play 50 or say a unit for you is 100 on Cindric, I mean, maybe you play a quarter unit on that. Just because, like, there's so much stuff that could go wrong at Talladega.
Yeah. Can we get... Yeah, he's pretty much 22. So 25 would be the lowest you would go. You wouldn't dip into 22, 23.
I mean, if you're like pulling my arm, I don't hate doing it just to have some action on the race, but and quite honestly, I don't love either number.
Yeah.
To be fair, I would much prefer like a 30 on him.
Yeah.
And, so
I wanted like 18 or 20 on Kyle Busch. Clearly not getting that.
Yeah, I'm not taking 13 on.
I wanted 28 or 30 on Cindric. I'm not getting that. But the weird thing is, like, there's also no rush to bet any of these guys.
Oh, yeah, these are not changing.
The lines, yeah, they'll move very slightly, if at all.
Yeah.
The only ones that'll move sort of aggressively would be like, I don't know, Stenhouse or something looks pretty good in practice. Maybe he goes from 36 to 18. Maybe the guy, Gregson, goes from 55 to 25. So if you want to take some longer shots, like I get it. Speaking of that, so let's talk 20s, I guess. Let's slow down the hype train before I get too crazy. Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick, Martin Truex is your 20 to 1 range. We talked a lot about Cindric. Is there anyone else in that range that you're interested?
So I think adding to the list of guys that could potentially win that are not playoff guys, I think the RFK cars have to be amongst that group. And so I don't hate getting to Buescher or Keselowski. If you could get Keselowski at 20, not 15 or whatever the hell he's going to be posted at, I'm not interested in that. And then the other guy for me that I'm probably going to have some action on this week just for fun, Martin Truex Jr. Look, it sounds wild.
Brian's right back in.
but hold on a second. Why are we so excited to bet Kyle Busch at 13 when Martin Truex Jr., yes, he doesn't have the finishing results, but he's been up there. It's not like he's not competitive at these tracks. And now
I just feel like Kyle Busch has been so much better recently at high fast tracks at Michigan.
Okay.
Last week.
Same exact conversation we had at last week going into Kansas about Ty Gibbs. What is preventing Martin Truex Jr. from YOLOing at Talladega this week? Nothing. He's not racing for anything.
Yeah, but he doesn't care. That's the thing.
But that's the whole point. He doesn't care. So why would he
Kyle
care?
Busch at least has a streak that he's like pushing for.
Martin Truex Jr.'s got one of those streaks too, I'm sure of it, but he doesn't have like points or playoff standings or none of that shit holding him back. It's just him riding around, looking forward to the lake. And why wouldn't he want to grab one extra win and especially at a super speedway where the dude has been, it's been a struggle bus for Martin Truex Jr. to find victory lane at super speedways.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could get 30 on Truex, I think that's an absolute fire for me.
Yeah, I'm not betting Truex with your money even after last week. I may be wrong. Maybe I'm stupid. And honestly, I'm looking at Michigan True Performance. Martin Truex is 3rd. Kyle Busch is 8th. Intermediate. Let's go to drafting. Drafting tracks this year. Kyle Busch is 3rd in 5 races. Truex is, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th. And that's mostly because Daytona was ass. But he was good in Daytona 1. He was good at Atlanta 1. Yeah, but like that's, I don't know. He's been bad in his last 2 drafting tracks.
Yeah,
Which
but
tells me all I need to know.
Good and bad are subjective on
but
this.
It's true performance. It's not result based. I mean, it's performance based. How did you?
Yeah, but it's performance based on like your average running position and speed and all that stuff, which can be manipulated based on fuel strategy. And remember, recently at super speedways, we've been having everybody ride around slower than freaking snails because they're worried about their damn fuel range as opposed to just racing at the track. And so I think that kind of has played with the numbers, like the metrics a little bit, when in reality, like if these guys were just going full bore, I think a lot of that changes. And two, you just have to take into account the weirdness of super speedways in general for that stuff.
Kyle Busch's last result, obviously, as you mentioned, it's based on shenanigans and accidents and other stuff. 27th, 25th, win, 20th, 3rd, 27th, 18th, 27th, 32nd. Checkers or wreckers. Don't bet top 5s, top 10s, top whatever.
Exactly my point. Like
you could do like a top Chevy on Kyle Busch or top Toyota on Truex. I'd be okay with that.
Look, spring this year, Martin Truex Jr. led 16 laps, so he's no stranger to the front. Okay. And also too, with him retiring and it's sounding more likely that he was going to jump into a car with 2311 than he's going to be with JGR. What do you think his thought process would be if he's coming to the checkered flag and it's him and, say, Denny, or him and Christopher Bell? Like,
right hook, baby.
like, why would he push them to a win? The dude's retiring. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. I want to get into manufacturers and some other props, but we should finish the outrights before we bounce around too crazily. So you're in on Truex. I have no interest. I don't know. Ross is sort of interesting, but he also just won last week, and for some reason I can't expect him to win back-to-back weeks. McDowell, Bell, Gibbs, Suarez, Bowman, Stenhouse, Briscoe, Priest, Gregson, Barry, like any jabronis. Who's going on the card for you? Who are you going to stand on the table and make a bet?
Well, I did like Suarez when lines first dropped, but that was when he was 40. I don't know if I can. I mean, this is nitpicking, but 34 or 33 or 30, which he's posted somewhere else, and I believe he's 28 at DraftKings. I'm not touching those.
Yeah, you can get a 30.
Yeah, but like that's what I'm saying. I don't want that. He's 34 at FanDuel. I'm not even interested in that number.
Yeah.
Because again, you're looking at a guy who really has one pusher in Ross Chastain. And so, like, I don't see HMS going out there and going out of their way to help push Daniel Suarez or Kyle Busch, for that matter. I mean, Kyle Busch and Chastain have their run-ins, and Suarez, I probably, just based on track shenanigans, is not probably befriended by a lot of these guys either. So
yeah. I'm betting Chase Briscoe. I'm telling you that. 44 in. His last results: 12th, 13th, 4th, 10th, 37th, 14th, 11th. He's been really solid at drafting tracks, Talladega especially. I feel like he should be like 25. So getting 44, I think, is good.
yeah, I actually don't mind that number. Just also too based on Ford's qualifying speeds.
Yeah.
At these types of tracks.
Yeah.
It does make me wonder, though. I know SHR is on record of saying, "Oh, we're all in and trying to help the 14 here, blah blah blah." But with all of this stuff and him moving over to JGR, and already it's like he's buddy with all the JGR teammates and all that stuff. At what point does SHR say, "Well, F you already ditched us, so we're ditching you now"? Like,
yeah. Yeah, he started 26th this year in the spring, finished 12th, but the 3 races before that, 3rd, 4th, 5th, he could be somebody that when we're talking on Saturday night is more in that like low 20s in terms of odds. Anybody else tickling your fancy? Gregson, Priest, Barry, Burton, Eric Jones.
I don't hate the Gilliland play at like 55. Again,
so Gilliland
he's going to qualify up front, and this is probably going to go to like 40 or 35.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, we'd be millionaires if we just based our bets off of positive CLV.
And he was number 1 in the spring per win the races true performance rankings. So
there is I don't hate the LaJoie and Haley at 55 either. Again, these are very small unit plays. I'm not going to play that. There's one guy lower that I will play show purposes, and I have a little bit of action offshore for a number not as good as this. I'm waiting for you to scroll, sir.
Oh, I figured
right there. Carson, team no lift leader Hocevar, 85-1. Spire has been really fast of late. LaJoie, when he was driving for Spire, has always been somebody that we were intrigued at betting. And that's why, like, Haley, also too really good at super speedways, which is why he's priced at 55. And I think of the group, Hocevar has actually been the best in this garage for quite some time now. And so I'm going to get close to 100-1 on their best car.
Yeah, I'm just worried about Hocevar, but he's been much better about being consistent throughout the whole race and not just showing speed in stage 2 and then crashing.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we're talking about tiny ass play here.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't hate it. I certainly don't hate it. I can't, I want to, there's some names kicking around in my head that I would normally think are interesting at certain prices. A McDriver, a Ross, LaJoy-ish. I don't know. Do we trust LaJoy that he is better now that he's in the Rick Ware car? Maybe the Rick Ware car is actually better than Spire. I know there was a running theme on the
Yeah.
NASCAR betting preview where we were just fading Spire with Rick Ware, but 55 for a LaJoy driver.
LaJoy is really good at super speedways. These are his Super Bowl races.
Yeah. And he's going out yeah.
I mean, again, though, all of this is completely moot considering the stat that I just laid down about this race is traditionally won by playoff drivers.
Yeah.
And so we could be talking about all these long shots till we're dead, but in reality, it's probably going to be one of these 12 guys that takes a checkered flag on Sunday.
Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, Christopher Bell.
Yeah, I don't hate Bell, and I know that he's been posted 25. It's 28 at DraftKings. I really don't mind that.
28?
Yeah, he's 28 at DraftKings. I think I'm going to play that. Yeah. It was 32 at FanDuel. Look at FanDuel for the win this week, folks.
Our offshore has him at 20.
Yeah, that's a no-go.
Screw those guys.
I'm really not interested in anybody at the 20 price, to be honest.
Yeah, I want to fire on Cindric, especially because we know how good Fords can be at super speedways in general and how well they qualify. But I don't know, 22, 23, hard to pull the trigger.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This race is not easy to predict. So
no.
Yeah, the Bell number I like.
Gibbs?
Yeah, I don't hate Gibbs. I don't know.
I don't know.
I like him more on drivers' tracks.
Yeah.
Like last week. I mean, I think next year he's going to be you're going to have to try to get the number early, but he's probably going to be price short. But a place like Bristol, where he's been extremely fast, I think he's going to be amongst the favorites.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be betting Gibbs to make the Final Four and win the championship next year. But it's going to be 12, and it's going to be so dumb.
Yeah, it's going to be very gross.
Okay. So outrights, I have Briscoe at 44. I have Bell at 32. I'm kicking around firing on Austin Cindric. I kind of want to bet Kyle Busch just because I genuinely think he's going to win, but that 12 or 13 or 14 is just, you want to talk about not wanting to bet Cindric at 22. I'm not betting Kyle Busch at 13.
No.
I can't bet Cindric at 22. Outside of that, I don't know if there's anybody I'm actually going to fire on. What does your outright card look like, and is there anybody else in contention for potentially landing in there as well?
Yeah, so clearly, like I said, FanDuel is the place to go for prices right now if you have access to that. But I'm gonna take a tiny little play on the Hocevar 85-1 number. Truex at 28. I'm telling you, I love this. I think Truex is going to be a contender here late. I'm going to take the Gilliland 55. I just think what they've shown qualifying wise is going to lower this number. And then also again, going into like the RFK type of conversation, they're not going to be pushing anybody. They're going to be trying to go for a win. And then the Christopher Bell 32-1. I like that as well.
Yeah. Anyone else on the short list to potentially make the cut? Or anyone else that?
So Cindric, but I just can't get to. He's 22. I don't really like that. I have 25 from an offshore, which I don't mind, but 22 is a little bit too short. I mean, stupid.
Yeah.
It's only $3, but still.
That makes a big difference. It's surprising.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at manufacturer because I think that could be interesting, and I think a good way to get in on maybe some of these guys that we're not wanting to pull the trigger on. So top Chevy, Kyle Busch 450, Byron 550.
And I almost feel like these markets are better to play than the actual outright board because.
Well, the numbers are like so much closer this week. Normally, there's a huge advantage where if it's like, well, if you think they're going to be the top whatever, they're probably going to be in contention for the win. So you might as well take them to win the race. And I think Ross, I know he's only 8-1, but I think he could make some sense as top Chevy, especially in a carnage race, like a LaJoy at 22.
Do you notice top Chevy right underneath Allmendinger in between Hocevar?
Right, Allmendinger and Hocevar.
Why do they still have Corey LaJoy listed?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. There was a week where Daniel Suarez, I think, was listed as top Ford. So,
oh, that's right. I remember that.
I don't really know. Like, I think it's just some intern that's doing it. Briscoe at 14. That's almost a better bet than like if you can only get the 32 or 33 or 35.
Yeah.
Although Ford is traditionally dominant, so maybe that is the one market where you want to be a little more, or maybe you just split it. Maybe you bet, 60% on top Ford, 40% on outrights.
Yeah, I definitely think with the Ford guys, it's Penske, RFK. They're going to be by far the leaders here, which is probably why it's really probably not a bad bet to take either Cindric or Buescher at 8 or 9-1 top Ford.
Yeah.
Just because those guys are just as good as the rest of the Ford camp that are elite.
I'm actually going to bet Cindric at 9-1. That's how I'm going to get him. I'm not going to bet it outright. I'm going to take him for top Ford and 9-1 it and call it a day. I guess what is that dollar sign? I don't know. I think the sheet might be screwed up again, Brian. So get ready for that.
Where?
I put Cindric in at 9-1, and it's adding extra. It's making a currency or something.
Okay, don't touch it. I got it.
Yeah, Briscoe at 14, I think is kind of interesting too. It's also a good week to look for lopsided matchups. If you can get big numbers on drivers that shouldn't, like, it's just a carnage filled race. So don't bet minus 130 on a guy if no matter how good you feel about it. Is there any good values in here? Cindric plus 150 versus Briscoe, Bowman, and Suarez. Don't hate that, but 150 is gross.
Oh, I wouldn't play the 150. I would just play the dogs.
Yeah.
Like that right there. I would play Christopher Bell 5-1 over those three guys. You can't tell me that he doesn't have just as good a chance to finish.
I literally cannot, and that's why I'm going to play it. I mean, I have him on the outright card. This card is already longer than I anticipated, but that's okay.
Small bets, sir. Got to keep them small. It is really interesting though. Like, I mean, hats off to FanDuel and Caesars for opening up so many markets already.
Yeah, especially on a week where there's like football and baseball playoffs started today and all that stuff. It's crazy. Larson Reddick against Larson, Logano and Blaney.
Reddick won the spring race.
It's true. You're not wrong. It's plus
I mean,
450.
yeah, it doesn't make sense for these. Now, are they good bets? I don't know if they're good bets just because.
This is a week where we're not educated gambling or educated wagering. We're gambling. There's a lot
Oh
more
yeah,
risk.
100%. There is nothing here that is able to tell you, oh yeah, this is good value or this has a higher probability of hitting.
What is Chase Briscoe's best top 10 price? I guess
Oh, I'm not
One-
touching top 10s this week. They're disgusting.
120.
Yeah. Dude, I tweeted out yesterday BetMGM when they originally posted their lines, and I think it might still be the same. Yeah, they don't even have him listed anymore, but they had Kaz Gralla listed at 3-1 to top 10. I mean, look at that that's disgusting. They have top 20 bets right now where they have on Caesars has top 20 numbers.
Briscoe
And
180 is a little bit better.
still
Gilliland
not.
at 240. What's Gilliland to like top 5? I think that could be interesting.
Look, BJ McLeod is minus 105 to top 20.
Yeah.
That's a no.
Briscoe's 6-1 to top 5. Gilliland's 8-1 to top 5.
Yeah, but okay, so that goes back to the argument. What are their top forward bets then?
14 and what was it? I was just looking at it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's down there this week. They didn't hide it behind the speakeasy. Keep going.
14 and 22.
See, I would rather play them the top manufacturer because you're getting paid out better, and they're just as likely to finish as the top manufacturer inside the top 5 than they are to finish inside the top 5.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same bet in my opinion at that point.
Okie dokie. 22.
I did find a matchup I'm playing, by the way.
Oh, no. Lay it on me.
So DraftKings has Alex Bowman priced as a plus 130 underdog to teammate Chase Elliott. I mean, just when you go back the 5 next-gen Talladega races, keep in mind Bowman did not run the fall 2022 race because of injury. Bowman has finishes of 13th, 9th, and 5th in 3 of the 4 runnings here, while Elliott is 7 first. He won fall 2022, the race that Bowman did not run, 12th, 7th, and then 15th this spring. They sound eerily similar. There is no reason that Bowman should be priced as a plus 130 dog here.
Especially since Bowman's actually been good and like competitive and kind of decent. What's his 10-1 to top Chevy? I don't know. His outright price.
And
Elliott,
I'll also
16.
repeat, this is a good week. If you find any plus money matchups, you could probably just fire on every single one and wind up coming out ahead.
What about Bowman at 34? Any interest?
34? I mean, I don't hate that. He's been really good. He's probably, honestly, I think he's been the most consistent playoff driver so far.
Welcome to the betting card, Alex Bowman. I'm sure you're going to lose, but I'm throwing you on anyways.
Yeah, because I think an argument could be made that outside of Maybe. No, yeah. I don't think there is an argument to be made. I think Alex Bowman has been the most consistent driver in the playoffs thus far.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
surprising too. Like he's been really good.
All right, let's recap this card before I get too gung-ho. I've dialed down my bets and my matchups. I haven't added any Cindric, but that's okay. I'll throw up the card here so everybody can see. All right, so I have Briscoe at 44, I have Bell at 32, and I have Bowman at 34. I also have Gillen top Ford at 22. I have the Bell over Byron Hamlin and Elliott at 5-1, and Cindric top Ford at 9-1. So Logano or Logano and or Blaney are going to dust all the Fords, and I'm going to lose all those bets. But that's okay. Limiting my exposure this week, not going too crazy, just trying to have some fun. Brian, Hosevart, Truex, Gilliland, 85, 28, 55, and then he has Bell at 32, and then he did the Bowman over Elliott at plus 130. Anything else you're considering, Brian? Anybody that you're wanting to get some exposure to, just not sure how yet? Anything in the forefront of your mind as you kind of think about it? Obviously, it's early in the week. There's a lot of time for stuff to hit the fan. Where's your head at?
Yeah, so again, going back to it, I do think that guys like Daniel Suarez and Austin Cindric are very intriguing for me. I don't hate the Bowman number that you got. I may find myself adding something similar later in the week, but I just don't want to get too exposed here. Maybe it's just a sit back, relax, watch the chaos ensue late type of race.
Not stressed because your guys in the lead with 10 to go and waiting for something stupid to happen.
Yeah, and here comes Kyle Busch looking for his first win of the year, and
Ross Chastain.
Yeah.
Daniel Hemrick up front. BJ McLeod in the back, but also up front.
Yeah, I was just gonna say BJ McLeod finishing 8th because the whole entire field wrecks in front of him.
Well, Brian, it was good to get back. It was good to talk Kansas. It was good to catch up on our thoughts. As always, we'll be back to get you set from a DraftKings perspective Saturday night in your feed Sunday morning. As I mentioned, the newsletter is completely free to check out, worth all of your time. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.